I'm Andrew Herman. I'm one of the co-founders of Panzera.
Hi, I'm Roger Cooper, co-founder of Panzera Watches.
Panzera started in 2009, and it started between Roger and I pretty much informally over a drink. We got together, we're both very enthusiastic about watches, and over a few drinks we decided it would be interesting to start a business where we could get involved with something we're passionate about, such as watches. When we originally started, we thought about just importing watches, so we became an actual importer of watches out of Germany to Australia. And Rog had some great skills in the retail side. I had some sales skills, and also I had a Swiss background. So we tried to get together and bring those skills together to start up an import business. And it went quite well. But about, when was it, Rog? About 2011?
Yeah, about 2011, we'd established quite a significant retail network of stores around Australia for the brands that we were importing. And we decided, well, why don't we design our own watch based on what we'd learned and designs and things that we liked. And so we developed Panzera brand, and we were selling these into the same stores that we were selling the other watches that we were distributing for the companies out of Germany. And we soon found that the Panzera watches were way outselling the watches that
Three to one.
we were wholesaling. So, within about 12 months or so, we decided to just focus on Panzera, entirely. And that's where sort of the brand, how it sort of developed and then continued. Yeah.
Well, it really took off at that point, because one of the biggest advantages we had in having our own brand was, we didn't have to compete against anyone else selling the same watches. But more importantly, we could expand from being an Australia-centric business to one that primarily did exports, because we were exporting to a number of countries. We started off with the US and then the UK. And over time, we've now got over 100 countries we're selling watches to. So that was revolutionary, because what it meant was we no longer had to be constrained to being an Australian watch importer, but we could be a watch exporter and product brand that could sell anywhere in the world. So it really, really rocketed the business to where we are now. Okay, well, I'll let Roger explain his background in a minute, but mine came from when I was about 12 years old. I've always had a passion for watches. I started collecting them when I was a teenager, and as I grew older, my collection became bigger and more expensive. And I must say that I've always had that passion ever since I was a kid. I'm not sure if it was because of my Swiss background or whether it was just something else, but I've just absolutely had an adoration for watches.
Look, I've always liked watches and sort of associated owning a watch or purchasing a watch with a memorable occasion. So, like if I just finished university or, I started my first business, and that's how I sort of developed my own watch collection. And from that, I got an understanding of what made a good watch and the different brands and so forth. And so I've always been really interested in watches themselves. But for me, I've worked for some big international brands from Europe, and I just really enjoyed the concept of, creating a brand from scratch and, developing it. And having a big loyal following and customer base and something that that I can be passionate about, and people that buy those products in your own brand would be passionate about as well. So building the brand and then combining that with watches, for me was a great combination.
The name Panzera came from a bit of a discussion Roger and I had when we started the business, but it goes back to one of my great family members in Switzerland who actually did work in the watch industry, and they lived in the Italian part of Switzerland and had the surname Panzera. So we thought we'd resurrect that historical link.
Yeah, it's a nice tribute.
Nice tribute to my family and the fact that
Swiss heritage,
and it sort of ties us back, I think, nicely, although we're an Australian brand, to the Swiss origins of watch manufacturing going back several, nearly a century. The challenge we're trying to address when we started Panzera was one that we both had experienced in terms of being watch enthusiasts, was the high cost of purchasing a watch. And what that did, it made it something you could probably only do very rarely, if maybe even once in a lifetime. And secondly, I think a lot of people couldn't experience that, what we enjoyed as much as we did, which was purchasing a brand new automatic or premium quality watch. And we went back, and because when we started this, we were watch distributors, we sort of looked at the cost involved, and we understood what was involved, how the whole thing worked. And we thought there must be a way of making this whole process more efficient to address that need to have a premium watch, but at a much more cost-effective price point, to make those watches more accessible to a broader range of people, and also, most importantly, like ourselves, to be able to maybe buy 2 or 3 of these a year, rather than once every couple of years only on special occasions. So that was really what we're trying to address: keep the quality high, but make the watches more accessible to more people.
I think we've managed to overcome that challenge by providing, a wide range of mechanical and quartz watches that fits people's budget, and also, their desired style in terms of size and the look of the watches. And just to reinforce what Andrew said, one of our goals for the brand now is to give customers the possibility that they can purchase more than one watch within a 10-year period, or even in a lifetime. So our goal is that they can have that experience of owning a new watch several times, whether that's within a year or 2 years or 3 years. And we cater and design and build watches to sort of facilitate that to happen, if customers want to. And keeping them at an accessible price point, that's part of the recipe to make that, come to fruition.
And the key to that for us was being able to really remove the overheads of being able to distribute those watches efficiently. That's why the direct-to-market model we've adopted enables us to keep the same quality that you get in a much more expensive watch, but cut out the inefficiencies of the distribution method. Yeah, the biggest challenge we had when we started the brand was really identifying how to get our watches out there. When we started the brand, things like Facebook and the current e-commerce strategies that people are using these days weren't around. So we had to go basically door to door, attending trade shows, trying to get people aware of our watches. And where we really did struggle, because it's an unknown brand, there's a lot of other people out there trying to sell into the space. And then to actually get people to purchase them in a store was achievable, but then to get customers to be aware they're there. So it wasn't until we really got to the e-commerce stage of our business that we overcame that big obstacle of getting the brand well known. Because once e-commerce became available to us, we could then promote the brand, not just from Australia, but globally, in the level where people became familiar with our brand, and actually became a brand that people recognised.
With any new brand, the biggest struggle is getting brand visibility.
Yeah.
In any market, really. And when you start out, you don't have a lot of money either to make yourself well known. So you're doing and trying all sorts of different things, whether that be attending trade shows, and we went even over as far as attending the London Watch Fair in 2014, and then we got recognised because we released a model there that was recognised as the best new model in the watch show. So it's just a process over a long period of time to build a brand and brand awareness. But yeah, the real turning point, I think, in people becoming aware of our brand was when we started to embrace social media and social media advertising. It's a real game changer for us, because we could reach any customer anywhere in the world, using that medium. So that was probably the best thing for us.
And I think often, as a lot of people find, a struggle actually directs you where you're going to go. I think if we'd gone down the conventional, and we would have been moderately successful doing what we're doing, but because we were forced, effectively because we had to try new methods, and we became an online brand rather than being a traditional brand, it's led to our success. I think the biggest differentiator for us as a brand is the fact that we are one of the few purely online brands that people are purchasing in large volumes from at the moment. And that's really changed the whole way we've operated. The inspiration behind the Panzera style has been on one basic premise, and that is watches are no longer just for telling time. They are actually a fashion accessory, a statement about the individual who wears it, and it has to appeal to the personality of the person who buys it. So we want to appeal to a group. We don't want to appeal to everyone, but our appeal is to people who want a big, bold, strong statement watch that really fits in with the Australian style, which is sporty, elegant, but also water resistant, and very masculine in the men's range. And that's something we've always tried to stick with. We don't believe that a watch should be a small, delicate instrument. It should effectively be something that people wear on the wrist, makes a statement, and when you look at it, you can say, okay, I know something about the individual who wears it.
Funnily enough, we initially started designing the watches purely based on watches that we wanted to wear ourselves, and what our friends would want to wear as well. And but now that's changed. That's evolved a lot now. So we build or design watches to fit into certain categories, certain sizes, certain looks. And we also now get or take inspiration or a lot of direction actually from feedback from our customers.
Yes,
that's really important. So we listen to what they tell us, and there's and try to cater as much as we can. Everyone has a different idea of what makes a good watch or good watch for them, but we try to make something that's going to fit most of the categories and gaps that are available for us to build.
And it also took us a while to develop that style too, because we did try a few different options that didn't work, and we could tell because customers wouldn't buy them. But we've sort of evolved probably the last 5 to 10 years into what we feel has got the Panzera character, but it does tend to be that big, bold, strong, masculine type of watch. And we've just introduced our latest women's watch, which also, although it's delicate and smaller, it still has that water resistance and still is a watch that you can wear anywhere. And I think that's the other thing that we've always tried to adopt, and that is a watch that we design. We don't want you to wear it to the office, then have to take it off because you go to the gym or the beach afterwards. We want you to be able to wear that watch and look elegant wherever you go. And that's why we've always made them, no matter what style or which range, they're all water resistant to be able to swim or take to the gym.
And just to reinforce what Andrew said also about the design is we really like Panzera watches to be noticeable. So you walk into a room and you see a watch, you're going to notice the watch. You might not know straight away what brand it is, but you'll notice, what is that watch? And that's the sort of comments and the conversations that we want to hear. And
that's what the feedback we get from our customers.
And the feedback, yeah. And
our customers say they get that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were very specific about choosing the right movements for the watches, and the key initial area was obviously finding something that's very reliable, very durable, but also at a good price point, because when we first started the business, we primarily wanted to hit that lower price point to get the brand off the ground. We now have moved up the range into a lot of Swiss movements. Some are very expensive, such as the Valjoux 7750. But the majority of our movements have been picked because they've got to have longevity. So we want a movement that's going to be around in 10, 20, 30 years' time. One that can be maintained locally, because we sell into a lot of different countries. So we didn't want anything too delicate. So we picked the NH35 in a lot of our movements, for a lot of movements in our watches. On the quartz side, we try to do something a little bit different. Because we're a bit nervous about most of our customers being mechanical watch owners, we actually went with we came across an interesting chronograph movement from Myoto, which actually has a sweeping second hand. And that really, I think, helped differentiate our watches from a lot of other traditional quartz movements, which tend to tick like this, our sweeps, and gives people a bit more of an affinity of being a mechanical watch, even though it's quartz driven. On the high end, when we launched the Swiss chronograph, we picked the Valjoux 7750, and that was because for us to have a flagship watch, we wanted to use the best movement available and give people confidence in that movement if they're going to invest in one of our higher end Swiss watches. And the Valjoux 7750 is probably the most prestigious, or one of the most prestigious chronograph movements available in the world. And it's used by a lot of very famous brands. So that gave us a lot of pedigree on that high end. In the mid-tier, we formed a partnership with a company called Landeron, And that's a Swiss movement manufacturer who has a resurgence. They've been around since 1874, but they've only recently come back into manufacturing movements. And they gave us what is a relatively cost-effective movement for a Swiss movement, but one that has some real pedigree and history to it. Once again, giving our watches a real nice association with the traditional manufacturer of movements in Switzerland. So we tried to pick the movements for each area, but longevity, reliability, and prestige are the three things we looked for in those movements.
Yeah, so the collaboration with Landeron is quite significant because, being a boutique Swiss movement manufacturer and, Panzera being a boutique watch manufacturer, it's quite a nice combination. And as Andrew said, they have a fantastic history and pedigree, and with a new reinvestment into Landeron, they're developing some really interesting and new movements that we will probably be including in a lot of our upcoming Swiss ranges as well. So yeah, we're very excited about working together with them, and they're a great company out of Switzerland.
Yes.
Yeah.
The reason we've adopted the air, sea, land characteristics for our watches is we wanted to have a model to build the ranges around. We don't want to have watches in every category that's out there, but we wanted to have some focus, but a variety that would enable people to have multiple of our watches in each group. And of course, when we looked at it, the main areas that were popular or are popular within watches that we felt would suit our style of big, bold style watches are air, pilot's watches, sea, which we have for diving and also for marine watches. And the last category is, of course, land, which covers us originally now for motorsport watches. And that sort of broke it into those three categories. There is another land version that's going to come out fairly soon, an exciting new model that will fit into that category. But by forcing us to work around those three categories, it stops us from spilling out into ranges that don't really fit our style of watches, and gives the customers a bit of a feel for where their watch fits into the different types of watches that are out there at the moment. What does the future hold for Panzera? I think it's very exciting. We're on a ramp up. We're on an exponential growth curve at the moment. We're probably, I think, categorised as one of, if not the fastest growing online watch brands, and that's what we want to continue to be. I think we've been down a lot of learning holes over the last 10 years of what to do and what not to do, and now we're on a trajectory and a path. We know what we want to do. And that involves producing more new models for our customer base, because we've got a huge customer base out there. We've got people that buy 5, 6, 8, 9, 10 of our watches. We need to keep giving them new models.
And entering new segments of the market, such as the women's collections, and trying new and exciting technologies and movements and so forth. So yeah, so stay tuned. It's going to be exciting times ahead.